Hello. I'd like to welcome you to this meeting of the League of Women Voters of Macon County. If everybody can find a seat, there are some seats over here on this bench quite near the front. There's some seats over here near the front. If you look around, I think everybody can find a spot. So thank you so much. It's great to see such a good turnout. This forum is sponsored by the League of Women Voters of Macon County. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization that is organized on the national, state, and local levels. The League has, for many decades, supported voter rights, voter education, and citizen participation in government. So we're always proud to be able to host forums for candidates in our hometown here. I do want to mention, of course, that today is 9/11, an important day in our nation's history, and that we all are aware of that and grieve for those people who were lost. Today's forum is with Senator Jim Davis and with Jane Hips. They are running for NC Senate District 50, and I'll tell you all how the forum is going to work. We start off with a general question in which the candidates can tell us what issues seem most important to them for this coming term. And then I have several specific questions that I have received from members and participants in the forum today. Those questions will be on public education funding, on fracking, and on local government control. We will be accepting questions from audience participants, and I'm telling you what questions we already have, so you can be thinking of other questions that won't be covered. We will take as many questions as we can. What we ask you to do is write them down, and as we're coming to the end of the prepared questions, we'll collect those, and I will try to select what seems most relevant or most different from what we've done, but there certainly won't be time for that many questions within the time period that we have. We hope maybe the candidates will be able to stay around afterwards for a while to talk with you, and that if you have things that you didn't get to hear about, you'll be able to ask them then, and then we'll conclude before we all sit down with a couple minutes for you all to wrap up. So, we will start with the first question is, please tell us about oh wait, I need my timekeeper. Patty, you're out there. Oh, there you are, okay. Patty Barron is going to be the timekeeper. And you each will have the same amount of time. For most of the questions, I think we'll go with 5 minutes. If you don't use all the time, that's fine. That'll just move us along more quickly. For the public education question has 3 parts to it, so we'll go for at least 6 minutes on that. But this first question will be 5 minutes. When you have 30 seconds left, Patty will raise a hand, and she's sitting right there. And then when your time is up, she will wave vigorously. And then I'll be sitting back here on the stage, and you'll find me lurking at your shoulder after a while. So the first question is, please tell us about the 2 or 3 most important issues during the upcoming term. And you heard the questions that we'll be having some additional time on, so you can include in any of those topics, but no, you will have additional time. Sips.
Hello, folks. It's so great to be here today. I thank the League of Women Voters for providing this forum, and I think, as Susan has mentioned, this is 9/11. It's the 13th anniversary of that. And I think we need to remember and appreciate our firefighters, our paramedics, and our police officers, and all the good things that they do for us. I have to tell you, being here in Tartan Hall, I was looking around, and my favorite tartans here are blue. Just wanted you to know that before we get started. Now the question is, why am I running for state office? Why am I running for the state senate? And the reason that I'm running for the state senate is that I'm standing up for our middle class people and our hardworking families in North Carolina and in Western North Carolina. I feel like that the politicians in Raleigh have lined the pockets of millionaires, have given money to large corporations and to large special interest groups who have helped to fund their campaigns. And what that has done is that's left us, the middle people in the middle class, and the hardworking people with less and less. And in Raleigh, these people have given money and given favors to our millionaires and billionaires and to special interest groups. And they have done that on the backs of our working class people. Our working class people are now paying more on their utility bills. They're now paying more for school lunches. Everywhere you look, even if you go to the movie, there's a price to be paid for that. And when you look at this tax burden, it's putting a greater burden on people making $84,000 or less than other people. But let's talk about where this money has come from that's going to the billionaires, that's going for favors. $500 million was taken out of our public school funds. $500 million was taken from the people, our children, who have no voice. And education, as we know it, is one of the greatest things that we can give to a child. It's written in the North Carolina Constitution. We have no right to take that away. So one of my big issues is education, is public school education from pre-K all the way to the university level, because we're suffering in every one of those areas. And that's a concern. I have 38 years in public school education. I've helped with pre-K as I was a lead teacher in Jackson County schools. I've taught at the university level as an instructor. I've been there across the board. I'm on the Haywood County Community College Foundation, so I'm involved with the community college. I know education. I know what's happening to education should not happen. Our children in Macon County at this high school, they're working with books in the English classroom that are 17 years old, and their desks are pushed together so that they can share that knowledge. They don't have books to take home. We had better education as we came up. Georgia has better education for their kids. Their kids have textbooks. I was at a football game giving out my cards, and I was speaking with a mother, and I told him, I said, I'm working to get textbooks for our kids. And the little boy said, what's a textbook? You know, that's how far we've gotten. And they can be electronic textbooks. I'm not against modern technology at all, but they need information that they can take home and learn. The other thing that I'm concerned about is fracking. I didn't start with this as part of my platform, but it showed up. And it's a major concern because it could pollute our drinking water. You know, an elementary concept is what is essential for life? And it's water, and it's clean air, and it has nothing to do with natural gas. And we need to remember that. And fracking in our environment and lack of respect for our environment that is something that can't be here. You know, we drink these waters, we fish in these waters, we swim in these waters. Our crops and livestock are dependent on the waters. We baptize in these waters. We cannot pollute our waters. Another concern that I have is the economy, because we've lost so much within the economy. The Department of Commerce has cut what we have in this region by about 75 to 80%. The offices aren't there. We no longer have access to funds within the Rural Center. The money that we had for the Golden Leaf Fund is gone into the general budget. So we've got problems, folks. I want to be your next senator. I want to be your voice. We haven't had a voice. The corporations have had a voice. The millionaires, the billionaires have had a voice. I can be your voice, and I can talk. You can hear me talk now. And I will take this voice to Raleigh.
Well, I can talk too, and I can get things done, and that's the key. I believe the question was, what are the important things to do this next legislative session? Folks, the most important thing that we need to do is Medicaid reform. Medicaid is a runaway part of our budget. Since 2011,
we ask that the audience remain quiet. Excuse me. We ask that the audience remain quiet while speakers are speaking. This is an educational forum. It's not a rally. Please respect both speakers, and there should be no comments from the audience. Thank you very much.
thank you. Medicaid needs to be reformed in this state. Since 2011, when the Republicans took over the legislature, our expenses for Medicaid have increased $2 billion. Education has increased over $1 billion, but Medicaid is an entitlement, and we don't have any choice about that. We have to get a hold of Medicaid, or else it's going to dominate our budget and reduce the amount that we're able to spend on other things like education. In addition to that, our education reforms need to continue. In spite of the information that you've heard, we have not cut one single dollar out of K through 12 education in this state. You know, the facts speak for themselves. You can hiss and boo all you want to, but I deal with facts. And if you want to know facts, all you have to do is go to the DPI website and see that. We have increased funding for education in this state by over $1 billion since we've taken office. And we have done everything that we can to target that money into the classroom where it does the most good, not in administration. And I think we need to continue those reforms. In addition to that, we'll probably continue tax reform. And in spite of what you've heard, the tax reform has 1% of the benefits of tax reform have gone to the people making $1 million and more. Most of the benefits, almost half, have gone to those people making $50,000 a year and less. And we need to continue that. We inherited a mess. I asked for the job. It's a self-inflicted wound. And so I am honored to be there, but we inherited a mess. And it doesn't make any difference who made the mess or how it got there. It makes a difference on fixing that mess. And we are well on our way to do that. And I would be honored to get your vote to continue that effort. We have made great strides and we're not done. And that's why I want to continue serving the 50th District as the Senator. Thank you.
We're going to go on to the second question, but I do want to reiterate that the League prides itself on hosting educational forums at which all candidates are comfortable and are respected. And so we just ask you to restrain yourself to applause at the end of each question and to not make comments or acclamations while they're speaking. Thank you very much. This second question is a multiple part education question. And I would ask that each of you respond to each part. I will read it through and then it'll be right here in front of you if you want to glance down at it while you're speaking. Macon County Schools report increased class sizes of 30 or higher in some cases. First, would you agree that large class size compromises the quality of education? And second, will you take specific steps to ensure that class sizes are more manageable in the future? The second part of the question is, while teacher salaries have risen as a result of recent state action, the money used to finance the raises has come partly from other areas within the education budget, including the further cutting of teacher assistants. What would you say to those who do assert that the General Assembly has funded public education by cutting public education? The third part is for-profit online charter schools have been touted by many as an alternative to traditional public schools. These online charters have come under fire by many for their lack of accountability and high failure rates. What criteria would you use to determine whether or not online charters were deserving of public funding? So we have increased class sizes, how raises and cuts relate, an online charter school accountability, and you're welcome to look at it. Senator Davis, would you go first on this one?
Be glad, thank you. We have dedicated $282 million in this year's budget for teacher salary increase. It is, if it is not the largest pay increase in state history for teachers, it is close to the largest. There's some debate on whether that happens. The majority of that money comes from beginning teachers. Our teachers, when they started out, made $30,000, $800 a year. We were ranked about 9th in the Southeast and about 47th in the country as far as teacher salary. The latest salary increase that brings us to 4th were superseded by Georgia, Kentucky, and Louisiana. Makes us 4th in the Southeast and puts us about 32 in the nation. So it's a great start, but we can't do all this at one time. The largest raise goes to the beginning teachers. Some of them got as much as an 18% raise the first year. That's where we're having the most problem, is attracting beginning teachers in our educational system. Some of the teachers that have been teaching for like 30 years saw maybe a 0.5% raise, and that's all. But they're at the pinnacle, the end of their career, and we felt that we had limited resources and we were going to dedicate those to the beginning teachers. And that money is recurring revenue. We didn't rob other parts of the educational system. We increased the 2013 budget, increased education funding by 5%. Now, teachers' assistants, there are no, I repeat, no teachers' assistants that lost their job as a result of what the legislature did this year. None. We have taken $85 million out of the teacher's assistant allocation and put it in the teacher's allocation. The reason why we did that is that the local educational authority had the flexibility to take money that was given to teachers' assistants, that they were given for that, and divert it to teachers, and many of them did, to the tune of about $85 million. We wanted to have truth in advertising. We wanted to make sure that the people, that when we were allocating that money, it went to where we intended it to go. And so it netted out. $85 million taken out of teachers' assistants, $85 million put into teachers to reflect what local educational authorities did. As far as for-profit educational systems, I think that every educational system in our state should be held to the same standards. But I don't think just because a school makes a profit that it makes it evil. I think the most important thing to do is to educate the kid. And when we have opportunity for kids and parents to have options in their educational system, I think that's a good thing. I think competition makes us all better. And so I believe that a lot of that, the question, the premise is false. And so I think we have a strong education record. I'm proud of it, and we will continue that record as well. Thank you.
Mrs. Hips, you can, just to reiterate, it's on increased class size, the relation of teachers' salary cuts to budget cuts and raises, and on for-profit online charter schools, and whatever else you want to say about education. Okay. And you do have, yeah, you have this.
Well, before I speak on education, I want to talk about Medicaid. And what we did is we sent our money back to Washington, D.C. That's $4.9 million that would be coming into this state every day to take care of our poorest people. That is 23,000 to 27,000 jobs that would be in this state, that would be creating revenue, that would be taking care of our poorest people. Another problem that we have is we're paying for our medical needs twice. Our people who didn't get the Medicaid money are going to the hospitals, to our emergency rooms when they're sick, and that's putting a burden on the hospitals. That's causing us to pay twice. We're still paying for that money. California's enjoying our money. Kentucky's enjoying our money. But in the meantime, we get poorer and poorer. Now let me talk to you about education. And let me see what what I'm supposed to talk to you about. One of them is the increase in class size. Well, you know, if there's an increase in class size, each individual child doesn't get as much attention. If you're an English teacher, how many of you folks are teachers? Raise your hand. My goodness, you know education, you've been there. You know the burden of having 5 more students in your class. We love kids, we're in the schools because we love kids, but we can't give them as much attention. And also, let's talk about an English class. If we're teaching students to write, we want to have time to grade those papers and to give them feedback. How difficult is it to grade 24 papers? But what if you have to grade 30 papers? It's going to take a lot more time. The kid doesn't get as much feedback. You can't give as many assignments. We can't deal with increased class size as it's happening. Also at the elementary level, we need those teaching assistants all the way to the 3rd grade because children need that time spent with them to reinforce the concepts that the teacher has given them. So we need that. We can't deal with increasing class size. Now, let's talk about this pay raise that the teachers got. And yes, it's good that the beginning teachers got raises, and our senator talked about the fact that it's hard to get new teachers. But you know what? We're having trouble keeping the teachers that have been there for a long time because they're leaving in droves. They can get more money if they go to Georgia. They can get more money if they go to Virginia or South Carolina. We're not giving the teachers the respect that they deserve. And where did this money come from? Well, it was robbing Peter to pay Peter. They took $76 million out of the university budget. They took money from longevity pay. That was money that the teachers thought that they were going to get again. They're also putting that on the promise of what the lottery system is going to give to us, which is money that's paid for, is generated basically on the backs of our poorest people. And then they also took money out of the reserves. So this is money that doesn't, to me, seem sustainable. And it's a problem. And I saw a teacher yesterday. She had 13 years of service in our public schools. I said, tell me about your raise. She said, well, I saw a $60 deduction from my paycheck. How is that a way to reward and to encourage the teachers that we have? When we've taken away their teaching assistants, when we've taken away textbooks, they don't have textbooks, when they don't have the supplies that they've had, when technology's been cut, when they don't have the access, our children don't have as much access to transportation funds, we've got a problem. We've got a problem in public school education. Now let me address the charter schools. Charter schools came into the state, I think, in the late 80s. I'm not exactly sure when, but I know what the premise was. That they could relax a few of the standards and see what kind of innovative methods could come forward and could go to our public schools. Folks, that hasn't happened. We haven't gotten what was promised. And people say that, well, the charter schools are doing better. You take a printout, you take a spreadsheet of how our schools are doing across this state. But what's important to me is how high are the test scores? Yes, that's important. But also, how many of those students are on free and reduced lunch? How is that school dealing with their level of poverty? And we have many, many public schools that are doing very well with helping our students in poverty. So we need to look at it. As far as the money, this is taking public money for private education. We don't know how much those teachers are paid. Maybe we know the teachers to some extent, the salaries. We don't know how much the headmasters are making. And I've heard that some of these headmasters are making more than our superintendents are making. Something's not right there. Something doesn't connect. Now let's talk about virtual schools where you're getting it on the computer. Read the research, folks. It doesn't pan out. They have a high dropout rate. It takes a lot of experience and self-discipline to do work on the internet. Thank you so much.
So the next series of questions are on fracking. At a recent informational session on fracking hosted by Dr. Davis, the statement was made by Commissioner Womack of the Mining and Energy Commission that to just say no isn't an option at this point. Given the emergence of science suggesting a range of possible environmental and health risks of fracking, and opposition to fracking in Western North Carolina, Do you agree with that statement? The statement that just to say no is not possible. If so, how do you respond to constituents that say the risks and changes to our community are not worth any potential economic or energy gains from fracking? Exploration in western North Carolina has been temporarily taken off the schedule. Would you support an exclusion zone for the mountains, or would you support fracking in Macon County if the resources are found? So, the multiple part, do you think it is too late to just say no to fracking? Are you concerned about the risks that scientific studies have found, the health and environmental risks, and how do you respond to constituents in western North Carolina that are concerned about the risks? And would you support fracking in Macon County in western North Carolina were the resources found? Ms. Hips.
I know we have a mixture of Democrats and Republicans here, and I want to quote a Republican state senator from North Carolina. His name was Jesse Helms, and he was famous for always saying no, no, no. And that's the way I feel about fracking, folks. No, not in my backyard, not in our mountains, and I don't want to see it in our state. When they talk about the water that goes into frack, go ahead and clap, that's fine. I'll wait on that. Let me give you a visual. As a teacher, I like visuals. But we've got a football game coming up Friday night, I think, with the Frankllin Panthers and the Bryson City Maroon Devils. And I want you to visualize both of those football fields. They're 360 feet long by 160 feet wide. Let's dig them 6 feet deep. Let's excavate them. Let's excavate both of them. Now let's fill them with water. If we fill them with water, my mathematician says that's 5 million gallons of water. That's the average amount of water that goes into frack and get natural gas. Now, when that comes back, and it's not just water though, folks, it's got chemicals. They don't tell us what's in it. Coca-Cola doesn't give us their proprietary formula, but we know what's in there. There's some sugar and there's some caramel color and so on and so forth. But these folks won't tell us what's in there. We don't necessarily want to know the proportions, but we don't know what's in there. But when they put that water in, it stays there except for about 20% of it. That comes back up. Our scientists don't have the technology to know what to do with that poisonous water, so we're left with it. That's a problem. But this General Assembly hasn't really supported our daycares, our kindergartens, but if you go back to what we learn in kindergarten, it should apply to fracking. Number one is in kindergarten you learn to clean up your mess. And these companies can leave their mess and walk away, and it's left to the property owners. Another thing that we learned in kindergarten is don't take what's not yours. And these fracking companies can go in and frack under your land, even if you say no. And it says and we tell the children to know the facts before they implement an idea, before they act on something. And we don't know what the Energy and Mining Commission is going to have in their rules. And yet it's already been passed that we will go with what they come up with. And another thing is to keep your promises. And this General Assembly has not kept their promise because they were going to study fracking further before they came up with the actual decision to frack. And another thing that is sort of said slowly and softly to children is don't relieve yourself in the pool. They may not say it exactly that way, but what that means is don't leave your mess in the water. And that's what they're doing. And I think our people are saying what they don't like. We're seeing rallies, we're seeing resolutions, we're seeing protests. People don't want their water polluted, and I don't either. And that's the way I feel about it. I don't want to see it in western North Carolina, And my opponent just says, well, we're not going to check for that. We're not going to test for that for another year. That's just a campaign promise. That's not saying it can't be tested in 12 months. And look at the money that our state has spent on fracking, really helping the oil companies, $678,000. And that money could be well spent in our schools. We're looking at the wrong thing. This is not the way to create jobs. North Carolina has a possible amount of natural gas that would last for 5 years. We can't put that on the backs of our children. When they make these drills and make these casings, those casings are of corrugated steel or carbonized steel. That doesn't last forever. These chemicals can erode that over time. It may not be in our lifetime, but it will be in the lifetime of our possible children or grandchildren. Also, the concrete isn't going to last forever to protect us from those chemicals. It's not safe. We don't need it. We can do better. We need green energy. We need solar energy. We need to turn off the lights. We need green business. We can do better than this, folks. We can do better.
Well, I'm presuming all of you who clapped walked here to this meeting. Folks, we need energy. Well, I see one, but she just walked from work. We need energy to run this country. And if you want to dedicate your life to green energy, that is solar and wind, have at it. But it costs 5 times as much as fossil fuel energy. We don't know how much shale gas we have in this country. We don't know how much we have in this state. And so for us to presume that there's only 5 years, you know, that's something for private business to decide. Do you think that if it's not there, if you think it's not there, they're going to invest money in looking for it? We have the strong, I am a proud co-sponsor of the shale gas exploration bill in the legislature. And the reason why is because we have really a lot of problems with our national security. We have to be energy independent in order to maintain our national security. And shale gas is part of green energy. Folks, we have a company that employs 1,200 people in Haywood County, in Jane Hipp's home county, that unless we get them up to the environmental regulations that the federal government is imposing upon them because they burn 10 carloads of coal a day, then they're going to shut down. That's almost a $500 million economic impact in our economy in Western North Carolina. So long as we can do it and environmentally and consumer protections are in place, I am all for it. Even President Obama's Interior Secretary, his Energy Secretary, his past Energy Secretary support this exploration. They say to make a choice between your environment and a choice between harvesting this resource is a false choice. A lot of smart people there. And as far as the water contamination, if you really wanted to know about this, I would have, it's too bad that I know some of you were at our informational forum that we had last Tuesday. You should have been there because we had a balanced approach for people to be able to ask questions there and find out more about this. A lot of people are misinformed. And evidently Jane Hips is misinformed as well because she still continues, no matter how many times you say that, it doesn't make it true. Again, we have put the strictest environmental and consumer protection laws in protections in this law in the state. And we're going to have to do something to be able to keep our energy independence in this country. I think that we've done the right thing, and I also believe that North Carolinians, even though the likelihood that shale gas is in the western part of the state, and even though DENR has suspended the testing that they were going to do out here to see it, we have the wrong kind of rock here. It's probably going to only occur around Pinehurst area in Lee County, in that particular area, probably about 3 counties. And so long as we can do it safely and protect the environment, then I'm all for it. John Hickenlooper is the Democrat governor of Colorado. And as a publicity stunt, he took a glass of fracking fluid and drank it. and he's still alive. And so for these people that are just really afraid of what's going on, these chemicals will be known in North Carolina. They'll be known by the Mining and Energy Commission, they'll be known by the EMT people, and they'll be known by DENR. And they will be able to, if in fact there is an accident somewhere, they will know what these chemicals are. But some of them are trade secrets, and that's why they're protected. So as far as fracking, I co-sponsored the bill. I'm glad I co-sponsored the bill. The likelihood that it's going to happen in Western North Carolina, it is very remote, but it is part of an energy revolution in this country. And if we want to bury our heads in the sand, so to speak, have at it.
Going on to the next question, and I will just continue to remind people, no booing, no hissing. I've moderated many forums. Sometimes when I'm in this room, there's a whole lot more Republicans than Democrats. Sometimes there's a lot more Democrats than Republicans. So the only way to have a civil, polite forum is for everybody to respect the other person. So. Yeah, I can't say I've been in a room where it was dominated by libertarians. There is a moratorium on local governments passing environmental regulation, while the General Assembly considers prohibiting local governments from having regulations stronger than the state, including ones they already have on the books. Should the state have that power, or should local governments be able to make such decisions for their own communities? And you can speak in general to local government control as you answer that question. So I think you're first this time. Thank you.
I think you said that there are no environmental regulations in North Carolina stricter than the state regulations. Actually, we passed in the legislature that no local government can pass environmental regulations stricter than the federal regulations. And the reason why is that we had a lot of local governments that were passing regulations that were really suppressing their own people, because a few people that would get in charge would pass some regulations that made it very difficult for the local government to deal with. I come from 10 years as a county commissioner in Macon County. I'm a strong proponent of local government. As a matter of fact, one of the reasons why I wanted to be in Raleigh is because I had a lot of responsibility at the local level, but I did not have the accompanying authority. And as the co-chair of the state and local government in the Senate, I have a position where I can help guard that. I believe in local government, and I think that it ought to be strong. Having said that, the local government does not have the resources that the state government has regarding a lot of things. And does that answer the question? I forgot these multi-part questions.
Yeah. Well, there was a moratorium put on local governments being able to make regulations.
Actually, it's not a moratorium, it's just illegal.
Okay. To make them more strict than...
Yeah, local government cannot make environmental regulations more strict than the federal ones. I'll give you an example of that if you want to know an example. We have Jackson Paper in the next county. Jackson Paper employs about 120 people. The North Carolina DENR came over there and they told Jackson Paper that they were going to have to bring their emissions that were presently at 12 parts per million of arsenic. They were going to have to bring their emissions from 12 parts per million to 4. The owners of Jackson Paper spent $200,000 on consultants and scientists and attorneys to address that problem. What they found was that arsenic occurs naturally in the air at 12 parts per million. And they found out that the technology did not exist to bring that down to 4 parts per million. And so Jackson Paper spent $200,000, a private industry spent $200,000, trying to comply with this regulation that nobody could comply with. So we're trying to address those kind of things in the state and make sure all of our regulations that we have are common sense regulations and the benefit is worth the cost.
you want to read the question again, it's right, it's the last one.
Well, it bothers me that our counties and our local governments don't have a right to say what's put in our drinking water. I don't think that's right, I don't think that's fair, and I don't think it should take place. When this bill was passed, it was passed for 100 counties across the state. My opponent says it's not going to happen that much in our 7 counties, but you know, when that bill was passed, it was for 100 counties, not 93 counties. So we've got a problem there, and we have no control as this bill is written. We don't even have control as to what these chemicals are. Yes, we can say some people have it, but let's say our people get sick. How long do we have to wait till we figure out that it's from polluted drinking water? The person could be dead by then. Other people within the community could be having health problems, and we don't know, and the doctor can't even disclose that people are getting sick because of what they're drinking. That's not being fair to our people. Another thing, let's talk about local control too in terms of the state budget. As they continue to cut things that affect the locals, it's putting more burden on our local people. That's another thing that's inhibiting our local control, because we think we've got the funds for it, and all of a sudden it's not there because we've got to pay for it. The state budget has been cut, and money's not coming to the locals. And that's particularly true in education. We see that. My hometown of Waynesville is considering the fact that they're going to have to raise the taxes, and it's because of the changes that have been given to us from the state. Also, let's talk about local control in terms of the school calendar. Our schools are being told when they are to start school. It's been determined by the tourism industry or commerce, but we're not taking into account, and it's not taken into account in these counties, in these mountain counties, that we have a lot of snow days. And so when school starts later, our children this year didn't get out until mid-June. We need to be able to have local control within our school calendars. Let's talk about farming. There's been our farmers used to have a tax exemption. By the way, I'm a farmer too. I've got sheep in my pasture. I know that sounds biblical, but I love my sheep. I was visiting with them yesterday. But what has happened is that farmers used to have a tax exemption for equipment, for things that they needed for their farm. Now farmers have to make at least $10,000 before they can get that tax exemption. That's cutting into their local control too, as far as I'm concerned. And let's talk about law enforcement. They have less local control too. There's a dispatch station now for this region that's in Hickory, and sometimes those messages can't get back to our people, and that's confusing. So our local law enforcement, the people who protect us, that's a problem. Our voice needs to be heard, and I am so glad that Evergreen Packaging got that money, and they're able to move forward. But you know, that part of Evergreen Packaging was taken out of a large bill, and that bill included other incentives. And I have a neighboring county, Buncombe County. They have the opportunity to bring in 2 industries with about 500 jobs. They can't do it because the incentives are not there. The General Assembly did not provide for them the money for incentives. That is hurting our state. That's hurting our economy. We've got to do better. Our people don't have a voice when our local control is taken away. And we need to have a control as to what's happening to our property, to the property that we own, and also the property that's within our counties, so that it's not fracked and it's not destroyed. That's the way I feel about local control, folks.
I've received several questions from the audience. One I think you all would probably like time to address. That is on the refusal of Medicaid expansion, to give your views on that, and at the same time you may address in whatever way you wish government support for health care. So, Ms. Hips.
Well, we need to have Medicaid expansion. We have sick people, we have people who are dying because they don't have the medical insurance that they need. And as I said before, we could have had $4.9 million coming into this state to take care of our poorest people. People who don't qualify, who did not qualify as we worked with Medicaid registration this year. And what's happening to these people is that they're lost and they're left without health care. And we have to take care of our people. This is money that has gone from North Carolina, from our taxes, to Washington, D.C. because this General Assembly refused Medicaid. Let's also talk about what happened to Medicaid this year in terms of taking people off the rolls who've already been there. Our disabled, our elderly, our blind. Talk to the nursing homes who are offered, I think, $39 a day to take care of a patient, and they have expanded their nursing homes in order to be able to take care of people. So that's concerning. And the people that are in limbo right now it's about 12,000 people, North Carolinians, and we need to help our people. We have choices to make. How do we spend our dollars? Do we give them to the wealthy? Do we go with a tax reform that takes away money from our middle class, that takes away services? We have to do better than that, and we haven't done that. I think I've pretty well answered the question, but we've got to take care of our people. Thank you.
The next legislative session will address Medicaid reform. It's something that needs to be done. Like I said, it's the runaway part of our budget. It's an entitlement, and the costs are escalating. It's the fastest growing part of our budget. And if you continue the way things are going, then it's going to swallow up the money that should be invested in other things like education, public safety, and other public health items. Medicaid expansion supposedly, and remember, all this Medicaid money that's coming down from the federal government, how much is our federal government spending every year that they don't have, that they're borrowing from these kids that you're educating, that you care so much about? What, about $500 billion a year? And we're leaving them a legacy of debt. We think it's time for us to get our fiscal house in order, and that's one of my mantras when I went to Raleigh, is to help do that. I was proud to stand on the shoulders of people that passed before me in Macon County, and we have a responsible budget. We have the lowest tax rate, or one of the lowest, one or two, tax rate in the state. And having done that, we've funded legitimate functions of county government, and we've done it very well. Probably the most capital facilities expenses in the history of this county were done when I was on the county commission, and I'm proud of that. I think it was needed, and it needed to be done. But folks, we can't do more than we can afford. And if we were to expand Medicaid, it would cost the state an additional $1 billion. We can't do that. People say, well, we're going to get all this federal money in. Do you know how Obamacare is partially funded? By reducing the provider payments for Medicare. It's a bait and switch thing. And if you think that's an economically viable model, then you're mistaken. It won't happen. We deserve to do better for our kids. I agree with educating them, but we also have to leave them a legacy of more than debt. And just yesterday, I was over talking with Dr. Ron Paulus, who's the CEO of Mission, and Mission has an association with Angel Community Hospital, talking about that very thing, about Medicaid reform. In some states, if the federal government gives states additional flexibility to do what they think is going to be best practices for Medicaid reform, then I could be persuaded to participate in that, especially if we have an out. You know, eventually, if it doesn't work, then we won't do it. But folks, you know, the promise is that the federal government is going to pay 100% of it until, what, 2022, something like that, and then we're only going to have to pay 10%. Well, my question is 10% of what? And if they can say it's going to be 10%, what's to say they're going to go to 30, 40, 50, and then 100%? We cannot afford it. We just can't afford it. And I'm not, while I'm in Raleigh, I'm not going to vote to spend money that we don't have. Our citizens deserve more than that, and I'm going to continue to do that, to vote for fiscally responsible state government. We inherited a mess. Again, we owed $2.8 billion for unemployment compensation. We owed the feds because we didn't have a proper unemployment tax rate that was imposed upon employers, and so we ran out of money, and then we borrowed $2.8 billion from the feds. As of last month, that debt is down to $610 million. We have a $2.5 billion budget deficit, and we took care of that. At the same time, we lowered tax rate on all people in the state. By doing that, we balanced the budget and we lowered the tax rate. We think that more people should have more of the money that they earned in their own pockets. Let them spend it the way they want to. In addition to that, we had the unfunded liability for retiree health care was $32.8 billion. $32.8 billion. That's an unfunded liability. How is that for the kids in North Carolina? Because of the decisions that we made in Raleigh and because of the good work of our state treasurer, Janet Cowell, who's a Democrat, by the way, a very liberal Democrat, but she's physically conservative, and she doesn't set policy, that unfunded liability is now $23 billion. It's been brought down by $10 billion. So we think for employees that work for the state, including teachers, our health insurance plan was losing almost $500 million a year. $500 million. We increased by $22 a month those participants that were in the plan. We infused $7.2 million, I think, the first year, and about $102 the second year, and now it's a solvent program. We are getting there, folks. And when we get there and we get our fiscal house in order, we'll have an opportunity to invest more money in the critical functions of government. I'm proud of that. I want to continue that.
I would like to give each of you the opportunity now to take about 5 minutes and tell us anything you haven't had a chance to tell us. This is your time to do what you want to do. So.
Well, I think there's some vast differences between me and my opponent. I think you have to look at what do we want? Do we want a state that's catering to special interests? Or do we want a state that's for the people and of the people and by the people? That's a choice that we have to make. Are we going to depend on the trickle-down economy that was given to us by the Reagan people, the Reaganomics, so to speak, where we give money to the wealthiest people and we expect it to develop into jobs? And where does that go? That may go into offshore investments. It may go to the stock market. It may go to buying a yacht because you don't pay as much tax on a yacht as you pay on a mobile home. So we have to look at what we're doing for our people. $50,000 was an amount that was given to people who were in businesses. Businesses were given tax breaks. What did that money do? It didn't help to raise jobs, to give jobs. We can go with ideological solutions or we can go with practical solutions. We can go with practical solutions that help our people, and that's what I want to do. You know, folks, this is basically a David versus Goliath race, and I'm a person of faith. And I think that we can look at what's being done to us and know that our people are not being taken care of. With this tax reform bill, the tax rate is lowered, which is giving more to our wealthy people and taking less from our middle class. And that's a problem. We've got to do things about that. This great state is in a crossroads. We have to decide which way that we want to go. Do we want good, strong public education? Do we want clean drinking water? Do we want good energy sources? What do we want? What do we want? How do we want our Medicaid taken care of? These are major concerns that we have. If we go with Medicaid funding and we take that, we are putting into place 23 to 27,000 jobs that will increase revenue. If we give incentives, we're giving jobs that are going to increase revenue. We've got to look at things like that. As a young person, I was a rehabilitation counselor working for North Carolina. I was helping physically, mentally, and emotionally disturbed youth get jobs. And the money that I was spending was coming from the state, but it paid for itself in terms of the salaries and the revenue that those individuals put back into the state. I saw a young man recently, actually he's not that young, but I was at a restaurant and this fellow spoke to me. And I didn't recognize him. I went over to speak with him, and he said, you know, you were my rehabilitation counselor, and I've had a job in Mission Hospital all this time. I'm going to retire this year. And he had tears in his eyes, and he said, you know, if it hadn't been for you and for my special education teacher, I wouldn't be where I am. I wouldn't have had a job. And I said, yes, but you know, Mike, you also worked. You worked by the rules. You were on time, which were the things that we taught him. But there's so much that we can do for our people. And we've got to take care of our people. We've got to give a strong education to folks. You know, there's a quote by Franklin Delano Roosevelt. And he said, the test of our progress is not whether we add to those who have abundance. It's whether we provide enough for those who have too little. That was coming out of the Depression. In 2008, we had the most challenging economic crisis since the Great Depression. And we haven't taken that route. We haven't looked after our people. Our people need jobs. Our people are hungry. Someone may have a job, but they're looking for a second job, or they're looking for a job that's a little bit better. The unemployment is we can't live with that. And you go into Graham County, and there's one job for every 5 people. Our people are going to be losing their income tax credit, earned income tax credit, at the end of this year. And that's going to take almost $2 million out of this region, out of these 7 counties, starting next year. These are going to be people who are more hungry than they are now. This earned income tax credit goes to families who are working, but the fact of even paying sales tax is a burden on them. And this gave them a break. This evened the playing field, and that's going to be gone. We've got to look after our people. North Carolina can't be a state for special interests. It can't be a state where large corporations are coming in and gobbling up our money, where they're funding political races and misrepresenting our people and misrepresenting candidates. We've got to become the state that we have been. We've got to move forward, but we had some good things going. We had an educational system that was next to none. I worked for the State Department of Public Instruction as a science coordinator, and I went to national meetings, and people from other states would come to me and they'd say, you know, you've got the best science education program in the state. We did. We don't have that anymore, but we can come back. Part of our motto is that this is a state, or it's part of our toast, I guess, the weak grow strong and the strong grow great. And we've forgotten our weak. We've got to help our weak grow stronger. And we do want people to grow great. We're proud of North Carolinians. I'm proud to be a North Carolinian. I'm proud of you folks. Thank you so much.
I presume that wasn't for me. Folks, I think the best program that we can give our people is a job. Since 2011, there have been over 220,000 jobs created in North Carolina. That's a net gain of jobs. Our unemployment rate when we took office in 2011 was 10.4%. 10.4%. Since then, it's been reduced to 6.5. In April, it was actually 6.3, I think, the first time in 8 years that North Carolina's unemployment rate was lower than the national average. We are making progress, and we're getting there. But I believe that the best thing that we can do to help our folks is to give them a job, and to have that job, they need to be well trained for that job. So that means we have to have an educational system that prepares them for that, including our community college system. We have introduced efforts in our community college system to go back to trades. You know, I'm a pretty educated guy, and some of the dumbest people I ever knew were in graduate school. And we think that, some people agree with me, and I can tell you some stories about that, but we think that the people that have trades are just as valuable as anybody else in our society. We need welders, and we need electricians, and we need masons, and that's where our community college system belongs. We are introducing a focus, more of a focus on those systems so that we can enhance those trade programs in our state. And so I make no apologies to anybody about what we've done for education in this state. As far as the statement that you made that we gave people a $50,000 from the state, we did not. For 2 years, the first $50,000 of their income was state tax-free. And that was a benefit. The first $50,000, that was a benefit to small business. And so that's just one of a myriad of false statements that you've heard here. If you believe that, you're misinformed. If you repeat it, you're misinforming. I am proud to run on my record. We've done well. We're turning the state around. Like I said, I don't blame anybody for where we were. It was a multitude of reasons why we were there, but it took bold leadership to turn our state around, and we're in the process of doing that. And if you want to continue to do that, you have a stark and a clear choice. I've been there. I have a great training ground for state government. I was a county commissioner for 10 years, and I've been in the Senate for 4. I've learned the ropes. I have colleagues. I know what buttons to push to get things done. So I have a record of accomplishment there, and I'm proud of it, and I would like to continue to do that. So you have a stark contrast on what you want to do. And I would be proud to have your vote. And I appreciate again the League of Women Voters for hosting this forum. It's been a delight to hear, and I congratulate and I commend my opponent for being willing to debate this issue. I think it's very important in America. I love it. People that respond, I think it's fantastic that we live in a place where we can do that. It doesn't offend me at all. And so I look forward to our next 2 debates. Thank you again for being here.
We would like very much to thank Mrs. Hips and Senator Davis for being with us today, taking your time and answering our questions. And I'm sure everybody in this room is going to vote and make sure other people do as well. Next month on October the 9th,